So that's the first elephant. Is he going to dance? Second elephant, is he going to sing? Como yo te amo. Done that. Third elephant, is he too old to speak? And the answer is yes. However, serious topic. And we're going to talk about inclusion. Now, what is inclusion? First of all, who knows what this is? No one knows who this is. This is a disadvantage of being old. This is a picture constructed of a character who's poor, the waitress. It's Julie Walters from the 1980s, you know that one. And she's not being included in the dancing. So diversity is being asked to go to the dance. Inclusion is when you're at the dance, someone asks you to dance with them. Totally different. So, if you think in your organisation, I've got the men and the women and all the different races and everything else, and I've got the woman on the board, and what does she do? She does women's issues. Where are all the decisions made? They're made having chats in the gents' toilet. None of that is inclusion. But basically, with your audience, well, you've got in this audience today lots of different people. How do you know you're including all of them? I've turned it off, magic. So, look at the audience, you can tell to an extent how old they are, what race they might be, sometimes their religion, whoops, getting too enthusiastic, the gender, the sexuality, but you cannot see where they live, where they're born, are they neurodivergent, ADHD, you can't see deafness. Oops, done it again. Sometimes you can see blindness. Different educations, different classes, the way they think, the culture they're raised in. These are all things you cannot tell just by looking at your audience. So be careful. And when you're speaking, you've got images you can use. Using pictures. This is Sabrina Carpenter. This is 2025. And this is Disney. And this is how it represents women. Is that right?
No.
My God, come on. Is that right?
No.
Okay. Use acronyms. PSA. PSA stands for prostate cancer tests. That's the PSA. When you're using, so that's acronyms, very careful. If you're using illustrations and gestures, top one, if I say to you, see you later, alligator. See, some of you know this, but most of you are too young. On the other hand, if you look at the next one, if you say, oh, it's all 6, 7, you think, what the hell's that? And I have no idea what it means. All 6s and 7s we've been using for years, but 6, 7 is what the kids use. Up to heaven. And then you've got people who might have disabilities. You've got the visible ones, they're in their wheelchairs. But people who are, this is a cartoon here, is about, I'm in a wheelchair, that's a disability. I'm wearing glasses, I can't see, that's another disability. Am I deaf? Another one. You can't see all these different things. So watch out for them. And then you've got the people with disabilities, and you use the words. You use the word disability. You don't use differently abled. You recognize it. You say all these different things. And finally, on this slide, we're looking at, this is a photo I took in a cake shop. And they've got black people getting married on their cake stands. They've got gay people getting married. And they've got traditional white male and female marriages, but they don't have a black man marrying a white woman. They don't have any of the others. So it's all very narrowly set. And then, this is my big test. The second picture is one of the places I live in, Rigby, and it's an alley. And what you're dealing with is you're trying to get, when you're dealing with all these people, demonstrating you are supporting all these different diversities and minorities. And that's becoming an ally. So that's how I have to remember this one. And then you have to remember there has been for years loads and loads of colonialism. And people in Europe tend to think, oh, that's the past. It's all gone. But if you ask anyone who's been subject to it rather than in control of it, it's still there. And people are very sensitive to it. So make sure your content does not include things which refer to colonialism. And then next, it's gone off again. What's the next one? Whoa. Here we are. Next question. How do people learn? Does your material have visuals in it? If you look at NLP, some people learn by seeing stuff. Other people learn by listening. I learn a lot by listening. Andrew learns a lot by stretching. Very good. And then people actually do it, the kinesthetics, equally. Very good. If you are working in a different language from the one you were brought up with, you learn that people think differently. So you have to be very, very careful how to do all this. And next point here is, in most countries, people learn in their natural languages. But on those red bits there, people learn in English. So they're learning in a different language than the language they were brought up with. Now, this is a picture of a nice biscuit. This is my big clue. What the hell's a nice biscuit doing here? Well, if you're American, and I say to someone to an American, that's quite nice, they think it's great. But I'm British. And if I say, that's quite nice, it means not very good. So you know that one. And this next picture is about Protestant thinking and Catholic thinking. How do your audience think? What's Protestant thinking and Catholic thinking? My story about this is I used two different pictures, the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Pope, to illustrate Protestant and Catholic, and the answer was, I couldn't do that. I was told that the head of the English church was Prince Charles. King Charles, so I had to use that one. So be very, very careful. And again, back to, this is a message about making sure that you understand your audience. Thirdly then, cognitive diversity. We're going to ignore the one on the left, too detailed. But one of my specialities is the way people think. Get people to think properly. If we do color profiling, if you think in red, you like people to be brief, to be bright, and be gone. But if you're working with someone who's logical, and they're not emotional, and they also like to do, they like no details. But if you're working on someone who's naturally is blue, all the details, all the process. So if you're talking to someone who's different, then that communication is all about logic. And you ask someone in those two categories, imagine having a cup of coffee and the smell of it, and it's not interesting. So half your audience, if you're talking about imagining things, you can't do it. On the other hand, the show me you care people, lots of emotions, make sure everyone's all right before you can do anything, can't decide anything, and the yellows, party animals, that's the way to do things. So ultimately, inclusion is the future. This was my future. When I was about 13 or 14, we had the wonderful picture of me with, surprisingly, no hair on top, still in the future. But the thing you remember about an audience is, I've learned that people will forget what you said. They'll certainly forget what you did. But make sure you include all these things so everyone remembers how you made them feel. Thank you. On the way back off again. Yeah.